You're listening to the Faith and Business Podcast with me, your host, Elle Edwards, from the Faith and Business Playground, here with Bible-friendly brain gymnastics to help make your day-to-day life and business more delightful. In today's episode of the podcast, we are considering how Jesus would celebrate Christmas in 2018. And this episode was inspired by a little preach that I gave in church on the very first Sunday of Advent. So just a few days ago at the time of publishing this episode. We were considering how would Jesus do Christmas, or what would Jesus make of Christmas in 2018? Some of you, we've had conversations, if you've been joining in the conversations on Facebook, we've been talking about how Christmas can be quite commercialized. One of my bugbears, and I had a conversation with one of my friends about this idea of what media, the television, for example, portrays Christmas as being. We adverts here in the UK and the magic of Christmas and how the gifts that you have to give and the things that are essential to make Christmas perfect. And you know what? It's an awful lot of pressure. And I don't agree with any of that stuff. I love Christmas. Long-time listeners will know that I'm a huge Christmas fan. I do have a Christmas tree up in my kitchen all year round. I have a cherry tree up in my office with lights on it and Christmas decorations all year round. And now that the actual Advent season is here, we have 2 real trees as well. So yes, I am a big Christmas fan. I'm a fan of Christmas, though, because of the sparkles and the delight and how pretty it looks. I'm also a fan of Christmas because people seem to be just a little more kind to each other. I also really love playing board games with my family around the Christmas time, and everybody just loosens up a bit. That's the stuff I love about Christmas. It's not the franticness and the stress. I mean, I'll be quite honest, I love presents. I love giving presents. I love getting presents. And I know that's not really a very popular thing to say. We're meant to, when I have my really holy hat on, I almost want to feel guilty for admitting that. I love presents. I think presents are great. But in this Love Languages book, and I've forgotten the name of the author, but he talks about giving gifts as actually being a love language. So I'm not going to beat myself up too much about that. But what would Jesus make of Christmas in 2018? And I've been pondering on this a lot, like I say, largely because I was going to talk about this in church as well. But I thought actually this has a wider context for you as well, because there are some thoughts that I came up with. And I won't give you all of them. I think I talked for like half an hour or more. And this podcast episode is hopefully not going to be that long. But the conclusion I came to was that how Jesus would deal with Christmas, or what he'd make of Christmas, was pretty much the same as what he made of life at the time. We did a bit of a maths calculation here. Obviously, there's BC and AD, and Jesus was actually born 4 BC. He was born 4 years before he was born. I know that makes no sense. But, around the turn of that, sort of say 2,000 years ago, when he was knocking around, how did he operate? What would he have made of Christmas? And how does that have some relevance for us? And I'm going to pick out a few at random, or not random actually, a few that are relevant, I hope, to you. One of the big ones, of course, is love. And it's, we could pick so many Bible verses where we reflect on the love that Jesus had for people. And I think however Jesus would do Christmas in 2018, it would be about love. Whether that would be about, I suspect that he would probably rock up to some soup kitchens or take food parcels, and he'd do stuff to help people from a place of love. And, so the example in that to us, of course, is that I'm not saying that every single person listening to this needs to go and rock up at the soup kitchen, or go and needs to do Christmas dinner for homeless people on Christmas Day. If the whole population of the UK, for example, did that, there'd be nobody left. The homeless centres around the UK would be overrun with volunteers. It's probably actually better. Maybe we were to start a rota and we can post it. And have little shifts. And some people can do Christmas Day, but other people can do the other days of the year when it's not quite so popular to do that sort of stuff. But Jesus would have been out there helping people, but doing it from a place of love. And so I guess the encouragement for you and I, and the reason why I'm mentioning it, of course, is that whatever you and I do in the lead up to Christmas and Christmas Day and the actual days around the official event, is we can do it from a place of love. We've talked before about the fact that we love because we were loved by God first, and we can show up doing love God helping us. It's not about trying to willpower our way to doing love. I don't believe that we are called to do that. We are called to love because we were loved first, and like Jesus helping us. And he really did set that example for us when he was around on the planet. And so I suspect that if he was doing Christmas today, it would be from a place of love. The other really nice thing, the thing that I love about Jesus, is that he didn't really do what people expected. If you think about the whole Christmas story, we have this image of Mary and Joseph, Mary on a donkey, and they turn up and there's, no room in the inn. And it's all very neat. Even though it's a stable, it's quite a cozy little stable with animals to keep them warm. And the reality is they were a very poor couple. We know this because when they go to the temple sometime after Jesus' birth to offer a sacrifice, it was meant to be a lamb. Now, okay, I'm a vegan, so we're going to gloss over the death of the mutilation of animals and stuff. It is what it is. However, it was in the Old Testament, they were meant to offer a lamb. But if you were too poor and you couldn't afford to offer a lamb as a sacrifice, you could offer doves or pigeons. And that's what Mary and Joseph did. So that tells us we know that they were poor. We know that they wouldn't have been able to afford a donkey, therefore. So this picture-perfect image we have isn't really true. And so even from the very get-go, like when the kings rocked up, the Magi, the wise men, and they rocked up at the palace. They were looking for the King of the Jews. They expected Jesus to be there among the finest and the prettiest and the loveliest, and with all the refinery. That's the wrong word. All the finery, not refinery. That's that's how we make coal and stuff. They would have expected Jesus to be surrounded by jewels and pretty stuff, but he wasn't. He was born to a very poor family, a very young girl probably, and didn't do what was expected of him at his birth, and carried on pretty much not doing what people expected when he actually came and did his ministry for those 3 years. People expected him to come and lead a rebellion, and maybe with swords, and we're going to trounce all of the baddies, and we're going to take over again. And that wasn't what he did, of course. He was all about love. And so the reminder for you and I is this idea of expectations around Christmas. And if you've been listening to the Mindset Minute this week, for example, and the Mindset Minutes that are to come, I batch record them, so I forgot where we were in the timeline for a minute then. Later this week, in the Mindset Minute, we're going to be talking about expectations around Christmas, for example, and maybe not having to do what society says we should, instead doing what's right and what's best for you and your family and the people that you love. And Jesus really does set that as an example to us, because he never really did what anybody wanted us, what anybody else wanted him to do. He did what his Father wanted him to do. He did God's work, but he did it from a place of, okay, this is the way we're going to do it. We're not going to do it with pomp and circumstance and all these fancy things. Another way that Jesus did life in AD 26 or whatever it was going to be, we're going to not worry about timeline specifically, was he was the guy with the second chances. So if you think about Peter, I'm going to pick on poor Peter for a moment. Peter was called, Jesus said to Peter that you're the rock on which the church will be built. And he said that before Peter went on to deny him 3 times. So Peter was really high and like, yeah, I'm going to be this really cool person. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then he had a really low, like, oh no, I've just said that I don't know Jesus. I feel really awful, even though he warned me it was going to happen. And then just a little while later, Jesus effectively reinstates him. He says, look, do you love me? Yeah, I love you. Feed my lambs. Look after my people. And then just a little while later, after the Holy Spirit came in Acts, of course, he goes on and preaches to loads of people, Peter does, and loads of people follow Jesus. So Peter is a really great example to us of just how much Jesus was a saviour of second chances. And I don't know about you, but I find that really, really encouraging, because there are times when I get it wrong. There are times when I get it very wrong. And thankfully, you don't get to see most of them because that's the nature of the internet. We only show you the nice bits. I do sometimes admit to the messy bits, because in a bid to try and keep it real. But like you don't see the times when I'm getting stressed out because something's not working properly, and then my husband says something and I'm snappy. It happens. It happened this week, and I'm sure you've probably got examples as well of things that happen when you're not the most delightful, wonderful human you want to be. But it's okay. It's not like God is going, okay, well, I'm going to give you all these chances, therefore that gives you a permission slip to mess up on purpose. It's not about that, but God knows your heart. And we've talked about this before. God knows where you're coming from. He knows that you are trying your best. And he loves you. He talked about David being a man after his own heart, and David was like an adulterer and had somebody murdered and stuff. And not that like we're going to be putting labels on good sins and bad sins, but I don't know about you, I haven't killed anybody this week. Woohoo, yay me. But God called David a man after his own heart. And you and I are people after God's own heart as well. And he knows our intentions. And so I think one of the really lovely things and one of the lovely reminders, if we think about Jesus and Christmas and what it means for us, is that there will probably be times over this season where you maybe don't quite get it right. And that's not to say that you have to get it wrong on purpose, but that is to say that you can ask for, seek forgiveness of the person if it's a person that you've hurt. But know that God is a God of second chances and third chances and fourth chances. And he loves you all the same, regardless, and he will never stop. I'm just quickly glancing down my big, long list of other things that are amazing about Jesus and how they are relevant to Christmas. One of them, of course, is that he gave gifts. We've got the gift of the Holy Spirit that was given. And so if anybody tries to tell you that, oh no, Christmas, you shouldn't give gifts, I would say, well, actually, Jesus was given gifts. He was given gifts by the Magi, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They're really quite expensive gifts. But also, he talked about the gift of the Holy Spirit. So that precedent has been set already. Jesus gave gifts, and that's gifts with a T in it, not gifts as in like the animated pictures. Although they're really cool too. I'm really rather fond of them. And I bet if Jesus was around right now using the internet, he'd have some really rocking ones. I'm just saying. But we don't need to be ashamed or afraid or feel embarrassed because we like to give and receive presents. It's part of being human. I think it can be a lovely, wonderful thing. Another really nice thing about Jesus, of course, is that he really liked children. And there's a story where the disciples tried to shoo the children away, and Jesus went, no, let them come over here. It's all good. And I don't imagine that the children in the Bible were any different to my children and your children. And if we're to believe that the Bible is full of actual real people, they were actual real children, and they were probably running around and really excited and all of this sort of stuff. And yet Jesus didn't go, shh, go wait till you're being a bit quieter. No, he was like, yeah, bring them here. Come on, let me. He loved being with children. And so, yes, I'm stretching this slightly, but I imagine if Jesus was doing Christmas in 2018, he'd knock on your door with probably a bottle of wine, because he liked turning water into wine. He maybe didn't buy it. He probably had someone that he magicked around the back. But he'd turn up with a bottle of wine and maybe sit down next to the children and help them with the Lego, or he'd play Monopoly. He's got the patience for Monopoly. So let's let Jesus play Monopoly, because he won't mind that it takes 4 hours to get to the end and that somebody invariably gets cross and storms off. Or maybe that's just in my house. But Jesus loved children. And so I guess if you've got children, you're listening to this, and it probably won't surprise you, therefore, if you didn't know already, that yes, I've got children too, and they can be messy. And I guess the encouragement is that Jesus did mess, so he didn't shy away from children being children. He didn't shy away from the mess. Like we've talked already about how he was born in not very favorable circumstances. Jesus did mess. And so the thing I want to encourage you with as you get ready for this Christmas season is that if at any point during this season your Christmas looks or gets or is a bit messy, take heart, because Jesus went there first. He did mess, and he's there sort of loving on you behind the scenes. And if ideally, I love the idea that we can be going through our day and then we get a bit stuck and we go, help, and then God's like, yeah, of course, and he's there like helping us out, even if that's just like calming us down mentally when we're freaking out. But Jesus did mess, and there's no mess in your life, there's no mess in your Christmas that is too big or too scary or too much for Jesus, which I think is actually really nice and really encouraging. Because even if you have a family who are really lovely, and for the most part, my family are pretty cool. Like I feel very fortunate, lucky, blessed, whichever word you want to insert there, which is least offensive to you. So my family are pretty cool. And I know that we're going to go up to my parents' house for Christmas, and there'll be nice, yummy food, and we'll play some games, and then we'll go to church, and then there'll be presents, and it will all be nice and lovely. But even amongst all of that, there's going to be times where someone is going to get on someone's nerves, probably more than once. But that's okay. this idea that things have to be perfect and amazing and pristine in order for us to do it right, and yeah, I'm doing air quotes around that word right, is nonsense. There's no such thing as a perfect Christmas. I mean, the very first Christmas there ever was, do you think that was perfect? If you ask Mary, she'd be like, no way. She didn't plan on having a baby leaning against the side of a great big stone wall. And, it wasn't, the very first Christmas wasn't perfect. So why does our Christmas have to be perfect too? Instead, it's about showing up, loving on people, doing the best we can. And I guess that's the overarching thing from all of this, is that if Jesus was here doing Christmas with you right now, and if you were to ask him, Jesus, can you tell me something, like remind me something for Christmas? It would be about love and just being, trying not to put so much pressure on yourself and just chilling out. And so I guess that's where I'm going to leave you with this episode, is that reminder that you're doing great. Even on those times, those moments and days when everything is a bit messy, just hang in there. You're doing really good. And I know I'm sort of speaking and I don't know the specifics of what you're going through right now, but I don't need to know the specifics, because I know that you're doing the very best that you can. And I know that even people who get it really, really wrong, they do it with the best of intentions. You've had times when you've done it really wrong, and it's still been with the best of intentions, even when it didn't go quite right. So I feel quite confident in saying that, keep on keeping on. You're doing great. You're doing the best you can. And I'm super proud of you for that. And if Jesus was here right now doing a podcast episode about Christmas in 2018, I feel pretty confident that he'd say something similar, although he would probably say it much more wordy and nicely than I possibly can do it justice to. But that's what I want to leave you with for this Tuesday episode of the podcast. Just that reminder, love. What does Jesus say? Love God, love people. And I guess if we keep that front and center as we prepare this Christmas season, we won't go far wrong. And as I close this episode, I feel like I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention, I'm very excited about this, the doors to the Faith and Business Playground community group coaching program, whatever you want to call it, is officially open. I should probably have given it an actual name, because Faith and Business Playground is the website, but it's also the name of the group as well. If you go to faithandbusinessplayground.com/join, you can find out more. It's for women entrepreneurs who are ready to grow their faith and their business in 2019. The reason why I'm mentioning it now at the end of 2018 is that the doors are now open. Between now and December the 21st, join us. It comes with an extra special bonus. I've written a book. It's called Happily Ever After. It's about planning and goal setting. But when you join the playground now, between now and the 21st of December, if you're one of the first 10 people, we are going to have a conversation, you and I, one-on-one, and we are going to be talking about your 2019. We're going to get you planned and goal setting like a superstar. We're actually going to be focusing most specifically on the first 90 days, but more on that when we talk. But it will get you set up for a brilliant 2019. And then in the playground, we have different trainings every month. So, for example, January is called Art of the Ask. So, in business how you, in order to find new clients, for example, you need to reach out for people. Or maybe you want to be a guest on somebody else's blog. You have to ask. But sometimes that can be scary. So the focus in January is all about the mindset work around doing that, so that you can take confident forward motion in your business. And all of this stuff is done with Bible-friendly mindset work. I've talked before about how God wrote the book on personal development, and we don't need to throw out the baby with the bathwater, as the expression goes. God designed your brain beautifully and brilliantly. And that's why it's faith and business, because the two go together side by side. And like I said, I'm really excited about it. And if that feels like a good fit for you, it is women only. So if you're a guy listening to this, sorry. But if you know some women for whom you think this would be a good fit, send them over. Go to faithandbusinessplayground.com/join to find out more and sign up and get one of those one-on-one spaces, because I can't wait to talk to you about it. faithandbusinessplayground.com/join. Until next time, thank you for listening. I have been Ella Edwards from the faithandbusinessplayground.com. I look forward to catching up with you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.